Arrow, is that what you look like, dude?
Yeah, man.
You are epic as
Awesome.
heck,
You're a
man.
rock star, man.
Wow,
Man,
that's a serious dream catcher.
You got it. Oh my God! Actually, you know what that is? That's a coup stick, and it was and coup sticks were designed because it's like walking up to Vladimir Putin and saying, "Tag, you're it." You have the courage and the confidence to walk up to it. So and man, and it's a fun little stick to hold while you're walking and stuff like that.
It's a big move. It's that titular big stick that was who's it was talking about? Walk softly, and carry a big stick. Yeah.
Well, what do you
Also counting too.
What you guys touch inside your book? You know, the spiritual cleansings and stuff like that. I mean, you're speaking my street when you open up like this inside your book and your podcast.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. So we have over the years. I'm Ben. We've got Matt and Noel. We teamed up because we had a common cause. We wanted to approach the world from a critical thinking lens and see if we could differentiate between fact and fiction. We're all, we're growing up big fans of the X-Files and the Twilight Zone, and we said, well, let's find the nonfiction answers. Let's leave no question unasked. And let's see what the facts are. Let's see what the allegations are. And let's see if we can find a partial truth to some of these stories. And surprisingly enough, this mission has been successful in many regards.
So when you say a partial truth, is that like a movie that says based on a true story? And so many movie critics are like going, well, it's based on. They don't have to go the exact way, but it's based on.
Perfect.
That's exactly what we're talking about, Arrow. If you just take one subject, let's talk about human experimentation, guys, really quickly. It's kind of a weird topic, but there are a lot of fears about what goes into our bodies if it's government mandated, right? That's especially been true lately. Well, a lot of those fears are based on real things that happened in the past, like the Tuskegee experiments, like these experiments we found in St. Louis, where the government was spraying chemicals that they thought were inert on some of these lower income housing areas, but they turned out to be actually not good for people. There's real things that are provable that have happened that we can look to see why beliefs are held in the current day.
Well, I mean, look at what happens with E. coli. I mean, my God, with all of this testing and all this technology, and we still face it. There's something wrong with the burgers at this particular restaurant, or grocery stores have bad lettuce. Well, how'd the bad lettuce get there?
Yeah, and this is a great way for us to thought experiment here, Arrow. So we would start with that, which is an excellent question. Actually, I would love to talk about that in a future episode if you're down to join us. So we start with that question, and then we say, okay, how does the lettuce get from point A to point B? Or how does the beef at Chipotle start out pleasant enough and then end up becoming villainous, right? So when we look at that question, we say, here are the facts. So we're looking at statistics of things like E. coli. We're looking at supply chains. We're looking at all the things we can prove. And then we start poking holes in those facts. We find the missing part. We're sort of like, if the situation is a mouth, we're kind of like flossing between the teeth and seeing what comes out. And sometimes the stuff that comes out, man, is gnarly.
Yeah,
like
smells.
Yeah. And so with that excellent question, we would also end up looking at other outbreaks or infections or things that you would think modern science could already tackle. Another great example would be Lyme disease.
Yes.
That's a whole bag of badgers.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here in a forest in South Charlotte, North Carolina, and this thing is, I mean, we have a beautiful herd of deer, and everybody goes, don't get Lyme disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and I'm going, you know what, these deer, just let them be, let them do their thing.
Yeah,
They do make really crazy sounds, right?
It's not just crazy sounds, but their body language. I love just sitting out there with them and watching them swish their tail or stamp their feet and stuff like that. And I mean, they get so close. We have a 6-point buck out here that he just thinks he owns this place, and I just go, bring it on, buddy, bring it on, because you're gonna pay taxes.
What are these points that they refer to? I mean, is there a 7-point buck? How many points do we go up?
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because I ask that question consistently, especially when they say that deer replace their antlers every year, and I'm going, how the hell does a 6-point buck replace all of those antlers every year? I just don't believe in that theory.
it's big deer.
Big deal.
We're getting to the bottom.
Yep, they don't
It
want
is
you
a
to know,
big
man.
deer. That's why they call it a buck. It's huge.
Well,
So
the buck stops here.
how do you guys react to this chess scandal? Because I mean, Howard Stern is already asking for this guy to, to strip search this guy, check everything out, and then have him take on the world.
Check his butt.
Yeah, this is one that we had. So every Monday on our podcast, we go into something we call strange news, and we look at stuff that either hasn't hit the big headlines yet or isn't being covered very well in Western media. And we first stumbled on this story right when it was happening, when Magnus, who is the chess king, the chess emperor, when he said, basically, I'm not being a poor sport. This guy is cheating. And Noel brought this story in, and we were kicking it around. I don't know about you guys, but I kept my eyes on it. And it looks like one of the big issues that's happening is that playing chess online is quickly devolving to the state of playing poker online, which is riddled with cheating.
It's funny. It reminds me of the documentary. We mentioned this on the show. It's called King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, where there was a big scandal between, I think it was Billy Mitchell and Steve Wiebe were the two top Donkey Kong players. And a lot of the qualifying, entries involved either screen grabs or video or online or of some kind. And it turns out that I think Billy Mitchell, who was pitted as this kind of he was this hot sauce king. He was this real kind of villain in the movie. He was messing with the frame rate of his Donkey Kong captures, and it was in some way gaming the game. So this really had kind of echoes of that story. But yeah, and then Magnus came back on after the initial kind of accusations for a rematch and did one move and then jumped right off. And it was very clearly a protest thing. And then in our last news episode, Ben, came to us with the update that I think he was hipped to by a listener who wrote in, who was very, invested in the story. And it's just, and then we covered this fishing scandal in Ohio. So it turns out that these kind of seemingly dull sports are rife with cheating. And it really starts to make you question, what about the big ones? What about the exciting ones? And we've covered that in the past, the idea of football and baseball and any sport that there's money to be made on, which again, in chess and fishing, there is potential for cheating.
Well, look at Tom Brady with the deflated footballs. I mean, come on. I never even thought about, wow, that would give me a better grip on that monkey.
That's sort of hollowing out your bat or corking your bat. It's something like that. It's a little tweak that's against the rules, but it gives you the edge. And the irony is that everyone's probably doing it. It's just a matter of who's getting caught. Same with juicing, using steroids. It's all about leveling the playing field. And if everyone has the edge, then no one has the edge.
Well, that pitcher last night, did you see that? Because he had a shiny ear, they stopped the game to go check his ear out, and they looked inside it to find out if he was doing something.
The thing is nowadays, Arrow, we can't treat that as being overly paranoid. As telecommunications devices grow smaller and smaller, as civilization approaches the age of the implant, then you no longer can safely assume it's just an earring. It's nuts when you think about. The bigger conversation with this is how will AI or machine learning start changing the nature of games that used to be pretty much human games? What's the future of that? Can you imagine the Olympics security testing in the next 20 years? It's going to be bonkers.
I was shocked to find out that in fishing, professional fishing, for years, there has been mandatory polygraph testing instituted because, again, unbeknownst to us non-professional fishing followers, apparently just lousy with cheaters.
Yeah. You guys kind of remind me of in the way that you're so up to date with content. I mean, are you like me? You do nothing but live in the news and trying to get information to create things. I mean, I don't have time to even watch TV anymore.
We try very hard to have social lives and families and things like that.
Doesn't always work out.
Yeah, it's not the best.
Yeah. Matt and Noel work assiduously to have social lives for sure. We all do. In all seriousness, we all do. We try to stay up to date, but one of the best things for us, which I'm sure happens anytime you're in radio or podcasting, is our audience. Our audience brings us some of the best suggestions. one or all three of us are continually in contact with people around the world. For instance, right now, I have some contacts over in Iran, in Tehran, and they're trying to stay safe and communicate with the outside world under the thumb of a government that is trying to cut them off from the internet and lead to physical violence. So we explore really, really fun, strange stuff like the glitter conspiracy, which is a true story and it's real. And then we also explore things like government overreach, theocracies putting their power on the powerless. So that's yeah, it's a weird bubble, because sometimes we forget what is normal conversation for us might be a really weird conversation for our other friends. And that's always a blast when we're at our local chicken wing spot and then somebody else shows up and they're like, why are you guys aren't having a conversation? You're doing the show. Now you're just drinking beer while you do it.
So, like, is there a slight bit of fear in the way that if you guys release something that's inside conspiracy, but we're seeing that people like Alex Jones are now being carried to court? How do you research and keep the fact on intact?
You use the word research. That's the key. I mean, Alex Jones doesn't research a thing.
Yeah.
That guy's just spouting off, pet theories and to have people living in fear. And he's got an agenda, and it's to sell more bone broth. That guy sucks. Let me be on the record in saying that. That guy is the quintessential conspiracy theorist of our modern day, in that he is actively spreading misinformation. What we do is based in research, and even if we veer into territory that intersects with something like what he might cover, it's all about dissecting the facts and separating it from the facts from the fiction.
One of the things that I've picked up on your podcast as well as your book is that you guys have harmony. Are you radio people? How did you come together? Because most people that are doing podcasts, I'm going to go do it with my friend John. Man, they speak out of tune. They're out of timing. Everything is just wrong. But you guys are really, really well crafted.
Well, thank you so much, Ira. That means the world, coming from a pro. So the story's a long time in the making. Back in the Reader's Digest version, to date myself a little, back in 2009, 2010 or so, there was a video department for the company that Matt and I worked at, and we were basically doing all of these videos constantly. Okay. And we decided we wanted to explore some of these questions, the things that are sort of off the beaten path of grown-up conversation or are easily dismissed. So of course, we thought we would get fired 2 weeks after we started, and we somehow didn't. And we grew this YouTube channel addressing everything that we could think of, and we're aiming for the really obscure stuff that we didn't see examined often. And then we grew into an audio podcast, and our audio producer at the time, Noel Brown, we all had this chemistry, so brought Noel on. I'm always trying to drag people on air with us, and then we clicked, and we do, I think part of it, maybe not to speak for everyone, I think part of this is a function of us being actual friends off the air.
Yeah. I was going to say the clicking happened before the dragging happened.
We've got music in our blood, all three of us too, and performance. So, being on stage and that kind of stuff it just feels like being at home.
You gotta get that checked out, man. That music in your blood. That sounds
how'd it get in there?
So we were talking about the acoustic a little bit earlier, but what about the way that Native American medicine men say that American doctors really don't know what they're doing? They are practicing medicine. Do you guys jump into subjects like that?
Certainly.
Yeah, pretty often, because one thing that is incredibly important to us is that there are a lot of untold or ignored stories, and history and society ignore these stories and these communities to their peril. For instance, not to be too dark, but you can see with our northern neighbors in Canada just how horrific the conspiracy and cover-up regarding the residential schools was. I would also say something that we have found when we do episodes on pharmaceutical companies or medical malpractice rather, is that for quite a long time, large corporations were going into native lands in North, South, and Central America, and they were taking and monetizing ancient medicinal cures, and making it a profit motive. We recently did an episode on the concept of clearing a space or smudging, right? Most often using white sage. And what we found is that a lot of native communities here in the United States have been attempting to practice their belief system only to be run off by people who are poaching sage, and not, they're trying to sell something that is a hugely important part of another person's existence. And at some point, what we see is that, often it's weird, Arrow, but often we'll run into a situation where for decades or for even centuries, there's been a group of people saying, hey, pay attention to this. Hey, watch out for this. And it's only when another force comes in, sometimes monetizes it, that people say, oh, maybe we should have listened.
Well, it's like cultural appropriation can often just be a bad look and kind of like, ooh, that's cringe. But there are times where the monetization of indigenous cultures can actually affect those indigenous cultures and their spiritual pursuits directly, as evidenced by what Ben's talking about with, these companies buying up all of the resources and selling them on Amazon in bulk to like kind of hippie types. And again, there's no shade on, I like smudging. I'm a fan. I think it's cool. I also like the ritual of it. I am not a native person. So I fully cop to a small amount of cultural appropriation, but I try to come at it from a place of respect. And I'm not a religious person, so I like to pick and choose from different, belief systems to kind of like make a holistic life and viewpoint. But it's these companies that come in and just buy up all the land that these folks would typically maybe pick wild sage out on, and now all of a sudden they're trespassing. They can be prosecuted.
Yep. My God, I could talk to you guys all day. So what I want you to do is to put a microphone in my car so that when I'm listening to your podcast on iHeartRadio, then this way I can talk back. You say, what did Arrow say? Shut up, Arrow. So it's come back to this show anytime in the future, the three of you. My God, what a great podcast, and what a great way to go to work or be at work and have someone sitting right there with you. That's how comfortable I am in listening to this show.
Thank you so much.
I want to let you know, Arrow, you can do that now with iHeartRadio's new talkback button. You can find it on the iHeartRadio app right now.
Yeah, and you can also do it maybe less directly, but you can buy our book, Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, anywhere you get books. It should be available to order online, or if you have Audible or any other audiobook app, you can hear the three of us read to you as at sleepy time, perhaps. We kind of go round robin with the chapters in the book, and it's a really cool production. I think everyone will really dig it if they enjoyed this conversation.
The only thing that's missing from the book is a yellow highlighter, because you guys say a lot of stuff in there that I want to go back and find, because I'm that guy that goes, where was it at? Where was it at? Where was it at? That's the only thing I suggest on your next book. Give me a yellow highlighter.
Well,
Done.
we can promise we won't mess up like the FBI and CIA and accidentally use black highlighters.
Yeah, right.
We'll make sure it's yellow for you. And we'd love to have you on the show in the future.
Absolutely.
This has been an awesome conversation.
Excellent. Will you guys be brilliant today, okay?
Hey, you
Oh,
too. Thank you, Arrow.
Thank you very much, sir.